So I just wanted to introduce, this is Amanda Wilt. She's account representative, right? Account executive. I can't remember.
Yeah. Made
For
up title.
for New Innovations down in Akron, Ohio. And I have known Amanda since I was just a little baby coordinator. She was actually the person who trained me on using New Innovations. So all you guys that know that I know a lot about New Innovations, it's her fault. So she's helped me so much through the years, and she's kind of made her way up through the GME world, just like I have. So we're lucky to have her. So I'm going to go ahead and give Amanda the floor. We had questions that I asked for you guys on the Facebook group that you were really great in giving me. So I've given those to Amanda, and so we're kind of organizing this. And then if we have time at the end, we'll if anybody has any questions. If you do have questions during it, please just type it in the chat box because I just don't want to have too many people over speaking each other, and then I'll tell Amanda the questions. Okay, go ahead.
Good. All right. All right. You guys see on my screen all right?
Yep.
All right. I'll move this out of the way here. All right. So, as Chris said, she went over some of the questions that you guys have had and proposed. So, I have a whole list of things I'm going to try to get through. I'm sure we won't get through all of them within the next hour, but I will do my best to get through the majority of those questions that you guys asked. Um, just a thing to note in case you are not familiar, every month we are doing a live webinar series right now on different topics. So if you haven't joined those, highly encourage you to do that. And you can always watch any of the ones we've previously done. And they're just going to be under the help section when you go into our knowledge base. There's an option here called admin resources. And if you go into that admin resources, you're going to have a tab that's going to say live webinars. And if you go to that live webinars, you'll have an option that's going to have the ones for this current year, 2021, and then all the ones we did last year under the 2020. And it'll have the schedule here of the ones that are already have occurred for this year and any of the ones that will occur in the next several months. So you can just click that register for webinar link and it'll allow you to register for that webinar that's upcoming, and any of the past ones, there'll be a link there that you can just view the recorded ones that we had at that time. So they're different topics. We're trying to schedule them as things that are relevant to the time of year. So if you haven't joined those, highly encourage you to do that. They are very, very informational on different things. And we do offer a live program coordinator overview every month. We're doing those now. So that also is listed if you go into the training options. Let me find it. Well, maybe it is under the live webinars too. I'll have to look for that one. I can't remember where we have those listed because they are new, but we do have an overview every month. So Chris, I'll find that out and I'll send that information to you to pass on to everybody. But we are doing a general overview. You know, there's a lot of turnover in program coordinators, and you guys may just want a little snippet refresher of what New Innovations does as a whole. So it's great to just watch that and see information. So let's kind of dive into some of the different things here. So first place we're going to hit is some items under the administration option on your menu bar. Now, I'm logged in as a level 6 user in my fake database here, so some of the things may be a little different on your screen if you are a level 5 administrator at your institution versus a level 6. So what we're going to look at first here is just the dashboard. The dashboard is just a nice place to kind of get a big picture view of what's going on within your program or the GME level, the institution. So as we're looking through here, we're going to see some different graphs of information about the different modules within the system and how things are being completed or not being completed. So we can see about evaluations being sent out, if they're being completed on time or not. I'm sure yours is never as red as mine because your individuals do their evaluations on time. We can see some information about duty hour rules and the violations. information about the schedule if there's any gaps. And as you all know, we don't want gaps on our rotation schedule because that can lead to rotations not being claimed for your CMS reimbursement. Information on personnel, and then we have some information on curriculum, portfolio procedures, and conferences. So as you can see, it just gives a high level view of information instead of going module by module and looking at some of the reports. This kind of gives you a one-stop shop to see what's going on within your program. If you click on any of these little reports, it drills down in for more information. So I'm just going to pull up my one here for evaluations. And now what I'm going to be able to see is for my department, all the individuals that have evaluations assigned to them and if they have done them or not. So I'll just get that breakdown. So first page, it's like the 10,000 foot level, and then you drill down in and you'll get the 1,000 foot level. So you get more details as you drill down in here. So now I can see specifically who has or has not done those evaluations that they've been assigned. And all of those reports are going to do the same thing. You're going to drill down in and get more information. The one really cool thing here in the scheduling one, if you have someone that has a gap in the schedule, you'll notice there's a link right here where you can actually go in and edit that schedule right from there. You don't have to move into the other area of the software through the module. You can click right on that link and it'll let you update that schedule for that person. So you can see the problem and address it right there. So if you're not familiar with the dashboard, it's a great place to just kind of look and see what's going on. And the only difference between the program level and the GME is the GME is looking at all the programs combined, where the program's just looking at one individual program. So that's that dashboard to give you a little oversight on how things are going. One other thing I wanted to hit here in admin is going to be the program option. So there's a lot of different items here on that menu bar on the left when you go into the program. And if you haven't ever configured some of the settings for your program, highly encourage you to do that. And one of the ones we're going to look at is the personnel section. So for your program, under the personnel, there's going to be a place where you indicate who your program director is, who your APDs are. If there's multiple, you can put multiple APDs there, as well as designating who the coordinator is for that program, or if you have multiple coordinators. So with this page here, by having these things set in place, there's going to be areas throughout the software where automated emails can be sent to the person that's listed as the program director or the APD or the coordinator. This is where it's looking at. So if you don't have this populated, those automated emails won't be occurring because it's looking back here to see who it is. This also helps in some of your attrition information that you have in your key metrics to see how long your program director has been your program director. How long have you been the coordinator? So those dates that you have entered there, that's what populates that information as well. So if you don't have that filled out for your program, highly encourage you to do that.
Amanda, there's a quick
Mm-hmm.
question. Do you only get configuration rights as a level 6?
It would depend if they have the customized security set to allow you to update your programs. Most institutions do allow you to do this basic setup for your program. There are a few institutions that I can think off the top of my head that do have it restricted where everything goes through the level 6. But I would say the majority of you probably will be able to get in here and update this information on your program. The other item here, our next tab, is going to be our faculty. And so this is one place you can set who your core faculty members are and who is part of your CCC team. You can also do it within the personnel data module itself, but this is a nice place where you can do everybody at once and you can see everything here. And by designating those individuals as a CCC member, that is what is going to make that portfolio milestone review section available to those individuals. So when your CCC team meets and they go through that milestone information, this is what's giving them that access by designating them as that CCC member. And so you can just add the faculty. It'll allow you to find people in your department. You can designate the date they were appointed and serve on that CCC. You can also indicate if they are a core faculty member. The core faculty members are going to be the individuals that the system will automatically allow the policy documents to be distributed to, and it is also going to be used in your evaluation reports for peer grouping. You're going to be able to see all your core faculty listed in the eval report and then any additional faculty. So that's where that is used outside of this section. So those are just a few sections here that I wanted to highlight in case you don't have those set up. It's a great place to just get some data in there that trickles down to other places. So now I'm going to start digging into the list you guys gave me. So first stop is going to be personnel data. So in our personnel data module, we're going to take a look at a few different things in here that you may or may not be familiar with. So in our Files and Notes tab, so our Files and Notes tab, you can create basically a file folder structure to organize documents that you want to attach to a person's record. As a coordinator, if you add a file folder to a section, it's going to populate that file folder to everybody in your department. So when I created a folder here called CV, all of my personnel in internal medicine got that CV folder. If a GME creates a folder, that folder then would be populated through all their different programs and available for everybody. Each of these folders, you also have the ability to indicate who can see the information within those folders. So for example, if I go down here to the folder I have called HR forms, the HR form folder, I have the ability to upload documents, I can add an additional subfolder, I can delete that folder, and then I can set the access rights. So the access rights are going to be who has access to do anything to that folder, whether it's just looking at the material that's in there or uploading new material in there. So as you can see, we have our different levels here. We have our level 6 administrator obviously can see and do anything when it comes to those documents in those folders. A level 5, in your department, you always have access to read the information that's in there, but you don't necessarily have the information privilege to write, which is upload new documents to that section. Those can be removed by simply unchecking or checking those boxes. So maybe a GME office wants to create a folder that they want to store documents, but they don't want the administrators in the programs to see. They can remove the level 5 access. Or they could create a folder that they want coordinators to be able to view the information, but not upload or change the data that's in there. Then they can just give them read access. The level 1, this is going to be if you allow your residents and fellows and even your faculty access to their own personnel profile. So that's going to be giving them a level 1 in their security and privileges for personnel data. If you've given that to them, you do have the ability where you can grant them the access to be able to view and look at the information that's in these file folders. That's going to be the read access. And you can also give them write access, which actually allows them to upload their own documents into those folders. So if this is something where you want to have them be able to review materials that you're uploading into here or upload materials themselves, you can give them that read write privilege for certain folders within your personnel profile. Now remember, a lot of the documents you may be gathering from them are things you're getting through their onboarding checklist. So you may be asking them for their ACLS certification or things like that. Those things you'll want to still do through that process so that those documents actually go right to that section in their demographics profile. This is going to be for any additional auxiliary type of documents you can store here in that files and notes section. But this is just how you can change that access level. All right, so that was one of the items on our list. Within personnel data,
Amanda,
you
can I
guys
add
know.
something to that? I remember the one
Absolutely.
question that they had asked me was that, is there a way to adjust those rights like within other programs? How does that work? Like if somebody has access to your program, that kind of thing.
So it will go by their personnel security and privileges. So if they have a level 5 in your department, it would be the same as the level 5s in your own department. So let's say I have a emergency medicine coordinator that I have given access to the internal medicine department. If she has a level 5 in internal medicine in personnel data, then these would correspondingly go to her. So if I had a 5 marked as read write, that EM administrator would be able to look at that data in my department. Now, if they only have privileges in their own department, so let's say this is an emergency medicine coordinator, they only have privileges in emergency medicine, they're not going to be able to pull up another person's profile in another department and see them or see any of the files attached. It is strictly going to be by what department they have access to and then what file folders have permissions granted for that level.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. One little thing I wanted to note in checklist, if you're not familiar with the gathering of those specific items like that ACLS and actually asking for the certification, that's going to be in the forms section. So it's a little difficult to find on this page if you've never been there before. When you go into personnel and you go to the checklist section, it's going to be over here on the right side. So under the forms, this is where you can build a form asking for a particular type of demographics data that you're looking for. So I'm just going to edit one that I have here. And then these forms can be a step on your checklist. And your trainees can fill out this form with the data, and then this data gets to be reviewed by you and then automatically transfer into their personnel profile. So some of the different things you could ask on a form is address information, date of birth. You can ask med school information. So here's just an example of some that I have on this form. Some of the other things, I'll build one with you here so we can take a look. And we're going to go into my make-believe one. And at the bottom here, you're going to see there's an option to add a widget. And basically, these are the different items you want to be available on that form that they would fill it out. So you can see we can have things related to certifications. And if I say I want certifications to be available on my form, I can distinguish what type of certification. So for this one, I want the ACLS. And I can say I want them to allow a file attachment. So when they go to fill this out on the checklist, if they attach a file here for the ACLS, when I review it, it's going to give me the information, and then that information is going to be automatically placed into the certification section in their personnel profile. So this is a good way to gather information during your checklist onboarding process and have it actually populate into the personnel data fields. So if you haven't ever done that yet on any of your onboarding or your advancement checklist too, it's a great way to gather that data and have it automatically go in there once you review it. So a few of the other items we have on our list are things related to the schedule and to our curriculum. With your rotation schedule, one of the things to keep in mind is that academic year. Your academic year is kind of our main thing that builds a lot of our parameters for both the schedule and for evaluations and other areas. So your academic year, think of it as your grid. So if I go to view my rotation schedule, I'm going to see my academic year is my grid across the top that designates my interval timeframes. So in this example, I can see that I have monthly timeframes here. Your blocks may be a little different. Your blocks for your academic year may be 13 4-week blocks. Some fellowships, you may have ones that go on a quarterly basis. So that academic year grid is what you can use to build out and basically kind of have a template for creating your block schedule as well as being able to use it in your evaluation piece. So I know some programs, their PGY 1 year is slightly different on the dates that they start or they switch from maybe your second and third year residents. So in that case, you would be best to actually have 2 different academic years for your 2021-2022 year. One would be specifically for your PGY1 level that would have those switch dates, and then you could have a separate one that would have different switch dates. So here, when I look at this, now I have a 13 block academic year. I'm still going to see everybody in this case, but what this grid will do is going to allow me when I go to build, I can choose the dates from that year. When I go to send out my evals, I'm going to have the ability to select what academic year I want for my intervals. So this is a great tool to think about if you do have those different switch dates, is think about the dates you have in your academic year, because that is going to allow you to have a lot more flexibility and assistance when you're actually building these things. Your block schedule, again, is kind of the foundation of the system. There's a lot of things that are going to be connected to your block schedule. Your block schedule is going to be connected to your evals, of course. It's going to be connected to your duty hours or work hours. That is how we're going to look at the time period for the rule checking. It's based on the length of the rotation. You can have your conference roster built based on the schedule. So that block schedule is going to be a key piece in connecting things within the software. So one of those other items that's connected to our block schedule is going to be our curriculum. So this is going to be how you distribute your goals and objectives out to your individuals. It's pretty simple to set up, and then it's going to do the work for you. So what you do if you've never set up curriculum, your goals and objectives before, here you would just click on that new link, and you have the ability to give your curriculum a name. So I'm just going to say this is for my ambulatory rotation here. And then for my ambulatory rotation, I can decide what groups of individuals does this curriculum apply to. So that's going to be by their status type. So if this goals and objectives document is for all of my level of residents in my program, I can select all 3 levels, in this case for internal medicine. So for my ambulatory rotation, I want my first, second, and third years to receive this curriculum document. The rotation that it's tied to is my ambulatory rotation. And then I can designate some notifications. I would like this to automatically send a notification out to my individuals, let's say 7 days before their rotation starts. And then since I haven't used curriculum in the past and I just want it to be going forward, I can set a start date. So here I'm going to say this curriculum is only valid starting this upcoming academic year. So it's not going to go back in time and assign it to anybody that I had on ambulatory before. It's just going to be effective as of this July based on the date that I put here. Then I'd be able to select that document. So it can be a Word document, can be a PDF document, whatever you have your goals and objectives document as, and then you would save that curriculum. So what happens now is the system is going to automatically look every day to see if somebody's going to be in that rotation 7 days from now. And what it will do then is when it finds people that are on that rotation, it's going to send out that notification. It's also going to put it on their home screen. So on that left panel when they log in of all their items that require their attention, there's going to be a link there for their curriculum. And the system then automatically assigns, based on that rotation schedule, who is going to receive that goal and objective document. And then they have that notification, they can review that document, they can check a box to sign off saying they read those goals and objectives. And then that allows you to run a confirmation report. And your confirmation report is going to allow you to see your naughty and nice list of who has read your curriculum, and if they've read it in that window of a few days before they start that rotation and a few days into the rotation. So you can see my people are here really bad about doing their curriculum on time. So they're all going to be in red. because they read their curriculum way outside when they should have, or they never read it at all. But this is a nice little way that you can take a look and see, you've always giving them those documents. Maybe it's a paper copy now and you don't really know if they look at it or not. But this allows you to have that ability and that basically check off confirmation of saying they knew what was expected of them for that rotation because they stated here that they read that. So it gives you that nice confirmation that they knew what was expected of them during that rotation. So that's our curriculum. So there was a couple different questions that came through about the different integrations with the schedule. We do have an integration directly with Amion On-Call for both the block schedule and the assignment schedule. Oh, I saw a quick question that came through about the curriculum. It does automatically just stay in place from year to year to year unless you put a stop date to turn it off. So it would just keep going every year until you decide that that's not the document you want them to use anymore. So within the schedule, we do have the on-call Amion import for both the block and the assignment. And so with that feature, if you're using that platform for your scheduling, you can do a mapping process of bringing that information into New Innovation so you don't have to re-enter your schedule. So you'll use your Amion login here on the side. Most of you are probably just going to use this login in the year. That department option is only if you're using an enterprise version, which I don't see too many people use. So it's just going to be the login and the year. And then you would retrieve that data, and then you go through a matching process. So the matching process, what it's going to do, it's going to give you the list of these are the names of the people in Amion, and we will try to do a smart match for you of the people that are in New Innovations, because there's two different systems and this helps them basically talk to each other. So you'll do that for your people. You'll do that for your status types, because you may have, as you can see here, you may have different status types in Amion versus the status types we have in New Innovations. So again, quick mapping of that, and these things you really only have to do once. And then you'll have your rotations, again, because of what you call something in Amion probably isn't going to be in the same naming convention as we have here in New Innovations. And then the next tab here, the resolve rotation conflicts, that's going to be used if you've, let's say you've imported your schedule at the beginning of the year, you have everything from Amion in New Innovations. Now a few things have changed over in Amion. So if you retrieve that data again and pull it down and just skip to this resolve rotation conflicts tab, it's going to show you these are the items that you already have in New Innovations for this person. And now something different is listed in Amion that we pulled in. So this would allow you to delete what's currently in a New Innovations and replace it what's in Amion. So that's that resolve rotation conflicts. If it's just one or two things that have been different, I find most people just go into the block schedule and update and change it and don't go through this process of the Amion import, but you can. You perfectly can go in here and do that at any time through that resolve rotation conflicts. And then the last step is going to be where you actually import it. And that's going to give you the list, and it's going to show you this is the information in New Innovations once you hit that button, and this is what it was mapped to over in Amion, and it's going to pull that information in and have it in your schedule for you. And with this, you can set the date range for when you want to bring the schedule in. So if you don't want to bring in the entire academic year schedule at once, maybe you just want to do the first 6 months because you're still working on the second 6 months, you can just import that for 6 months of the schedule based on those date parameters that you have here. We do also now in the assignment, besides having the on-call Amion import, we do have a QGenda integration as well.
Amanda, to go on with that.
Yes.
There's a question that says, how can you override it if you update Amion after importing it into NI?
Okay, so that is going to be that resolve conflicts page. So once you log back in and retrieve that data again, when you get to that page for the mapping, when you get to the resolve rotation conflicts, that's where you can override anything in New Innovations with new information that you've updated in Amion after that initial import. So that's where you're going to do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So if you guys use QGenda and you are interested in having that connection with New Innovations, you do have to have QGenda do some work to turn it on their side, and then we can pull information from QGenda schedule as well. So if that's something you're interested in, just check with QGenda and they can get that turned on their side for you so that we can connect that data. All right, so that's some information about the schedule. Next thing we're going to dive into, of course, is always the biggest topic, which is evals. So let's take a look at some evaluation information. So first place we're going to stop is our evaluation forms. And of course, everything's always changing with evals now with all the different milestones and the updates of the milestones. So if you are in a program where your milestone version has changed, they have new updated milestones that are going to be effective this July. Those milestones are already in New Innovations for you to be able to use. If you had forms that you used in the past that have version 1 on them or the older milestones, we will have this indicator to let you know that you have forms that basically will have outdated milestone information on them. So we do have a little quick walkthrough here through that update milestones. It'll walk you through the different ways that you can update your forms to have the new version of milestones. Some of them are not a one-to-one ratio, so we couldn't just automatically update them for you because some of them, a whole milestone was gone or new ones were added. So what we did is just giving you a little shortcut way that you can walk through the steps of updating those forms to have the new milestone content on them. So what we're going to do is just take a look at some of the different ways you can add milestones to your evaluation forms, or if you're using what I'll call standard questions, to map those back to the milestones. So what we're going to do is we're going to build an example form here. And I'm going to be real creative with my name. And now we're going to get into the building of those components. So with your milestones, we have a few different kind of groupings or ways that you could use those milestone type questions on your evals. For those programs that have EPA type of questions that they want to use, where it's that entrustment scale, we have the EPA options. You can have the actual milestone narrative. So think of you have that milestone subcompetency grid, and under level 1, there's those different boxes with the different items. So the milestone narratives are going to be each of those different boxes, those specific questions that'll have a yes/no response. Then we of course have the subcompetency. So your milestone subcompetency would put that whole grid as a question on your form with the ACGME specific language. And then we also have the custom subcompetency. So it gives you that grid for the subcompetency, but it lets you put your own verbiage in there. So you can maybe simplify it for some of your faculty, or you just want to use your own language and link it back to a subcompetency. So when you create a custom one, you'll have the ability to put your own text in the title, as well as any of the specific levels that you have here. Then we have our options for what we want our null value to be, if we want it required, if we want to include comments, and then here you can decide what milestone you want to map it back to. So here I can say this particular evaluation question that I'm making, I want it to connect to my new internal medicine milestones that are effective as of July 2021. And I want to say it's connected to patient care history. So what this would do then is when this evaluation form is completed and this question is answered, the results of this question are going to be tied back to patient care one. So when I'm looking at my reports, when I'm looking at my CCC review, the results of that question will be in that section under patient care one, history. So that's the option with doing a custom one. We also, of course, have the standard type of questions you can use from in the past. And let me just add one subcompetency one on here so we can see that in here. And I'm going to do one of my new ones. And as you can see, it puts that entire grid right on the page as a question. If you have the standard type of questions, your rating scale, unsatisfactory to superior, never to always, it's going to be that different rating scale option. Your multiple choice, you can have them select the best answer from your choices or multiple, select all that apply. And then of course we have our yes, no, true, false. We have a numeric, how many times did you have an encounter with this resident during the rotation, or those open-ended text box. So what are some areas of improvement for this trainee? So let's do a rating scale here. And give us some options. And when you do a rating scale, you will have that option here to the right to set if this is something that is a low score or a high score. So if I want this to be a low score, I can set that as a low score. I can add in as many as I want here on the side. And then I can tag this question to be either linked back to one of the core competency areas or the specific milestone subcompetency. So here I want this one to tie back to my milestone of patient care one history. So this also is going to show when I'm looking at my CCC information, those individuals are going to see the results of this question under patient care one history because I've tied it back, I've mapped it to that specific milestone. So now I have this question also linked to that area, and that data then is going to be summarized up there. So a lot of different options when it comes to what you want to have on your eval form. You can use those pre-built milestone subcompetencies or the milestone narratives, or you can build your own subcompetency or just your own questions. And you can map them or not map them back. It's totally up to you. It just all is going to factor in on what information do you want to have summarized up for your CCC team when it comes to those milestones. So this is going to be building your forms. Now, once you have your forms built in place, the next thing is how do you send it out? And that's going to be the distribution of the evaluations. Now, the term we have for that is called a session. Basically, think of the session in our system is just setting your rules and parameters for when you want the evaluation to go out, who it needs to go out to, and what evaluation is it that needs to go out. So that's the session setting. So that's where you can set all those things, whether you want it to be anonymous or not, if it goes out at the end of every rotation, is it only for a certain rotation? So all of that is going to be here within the session process. There's a lot of different steps in here, so I'm just going to highlight a few of them for you. So we're going to take an example, look at faculty evaluation of the resident. So for those types of evaluations, as we said here, we're setting the rules and parameters. So this is where we can say the person filling out the evaluation, our evaluator, is going to be our faculty members, and they're going to be evaluating my residents. So that's my evaluator and subject. The rotation is going to be when the system looks at my rotation schedule, my block schedule, find those people on these rotations. So I've said I want my faculty to evaluate my residents when they're on these rotations. So what it would do, for example, for CARD CCU, It's going to look at my rotation schedule. It's going to find the faculty that's listed on the card CCU rotation. It's going to find the resident listed on the card CCC rotation, and then it's going to pair them up to be able to evaluate each other. And in this case, it's going to be my faculty evaluating the residents. You would designate what form, what level of anonymity you would want. And then in the match schedule, their question?
Go ahead, I'll ask you when you're done.
Okay. And then on the match schedule, this is now where we set those date parameters for when we want it to go out. So here is a case where we had mentioned earlier with the schedule, you may have your first years on a different set of dates than your second and third year. So in that case, you may actually have two different sessions. You may have your faculty evaluate your first year residents, and then here for your intervals, you're going to select that date from your academic year that is your monthly, and then it would give you those monthly dates. And in your people tab, you would make sure the only people in your subject list are your first years. Then if my second and third years get evaluated at the end of their blocks, and their blocks are 4-week blocks, I would do the same thing in my people tab. My subjects there are going to be my second and third year residents. And here on my match schedule tab, when I create my intervals, I'm going to use that different grid that I built for them that has those 13 4-week blocks. So that way, your evaluations are going to get paired up according to the right dates, the dates that are specific to when they're on those rotations, and then can send out those evaluations automatically based on those dates. All right, Chris, what question do we have?
So we have a few, of course, we have a few evaluation questions. So
all right.
The first one says, how do you add NA to them?
Okay, so on your evaluation form for any question, let's go to my example one here. So for those questions that you create, if you want an NA option, there's going to be right here underneath your scale, an option that you can select. You want an NA, and you can determine what you want that language to be. NA, not observed, insufficient contact to judge, and you can have that label be listed there, and then you get an NA option on that. When it comes to your milestone subcompetencies, it'll be pre-built based on what your board had decided. If it's not yet accessible, not yet completed, some actually do say NA, so it'll be based for those questions based on what your board had set.
Okay, the next one is when you connect your evaluation to a specific physician and rotation, and the physician and or rotation changes, how do you update the matching for the evaluation?
Okay, so what you can do depending on the time, you'll always want to make sure as soon as you find out that there's a change to the schedule to update your block rotation schedule. And if you have your rotation schedule updated before the evaluations are set to go out, the system will automatically pick up that change. If the change was done after the evaluations have already gone out, you'll want to make sure you still go update the block schedule, because you want that block schedule to be accurate and reflecting what those individuals did, because again, it's going to affect your IRIS reimbursement, and it's going to affect their work hours and many other things. So you want it to have the correct rotation listed there. And if the evaluations have already been sent out, there is an option here on your session, when you're in your session manager, that you can say you want it to match that interval again. And basically what that does is tells the system to go back and look at the block schedule and see if there are any changes to what I had already had created from the system. So you can always hit that match interval at any time to pick up any changes from your schedule, even if it's after it would have already been available to them. The only time you don't want to do that is if it's totally anonymous, because if it's totally anonymous, it's going to remake all those matches that everybody just completed. So just a note of caution on that one.
I also noticed that when I was doing this before, and we would have that happen, is Under the, like, if you go up to the top, under click evaluations and then sessions, session manager, there's this like, these tabs here are really awesome. So like,
Yes.
you could say by
Yes.
evaluator, and you can like change out somebody.
Yes. That was going to be in the next place I was going to go to. So good
Sorry.
segue, Chris. And we think alike. So basically, these pages, if you've never used these tabs, as Chris said, they are so helpful and so informative. So many people just think, oh, the session manager is just where I create my sessions to go out. And they don't look at these other things and see all these other tools they can use, basically. So your By Evaluator tab is going to give you the list of all your different individuals that you have. And then for each person, you're going to see a listing of these are all the evaluations they've been assigned where they've been the evaluator. And I can see if they've completed it or not. I have the ability to print it from here. I have the ability, if they haven't done it yet, I can delete it. I can edit that match and assign it to somebody else. So a lot of different tools here right from this page. By subject, same concept, but it's going to show me every time they were a subject of an evaluation. So if I want to look at every time that Haley was evaluated, where she was the subject of the evaluation, now I can go down through here and I see she has some self-evals she did, and then here's all the faculty that evaluated her, and I can look at each of those different evaluations here. Again, I can preview them, I can edit them if they haven't been completed, and I could print them out from this page. And as you can see here, it'll break them down too in case there's a lot. You can look at just the completed, just the delinquent, and just the pending. And then rotation, again, it's just going to group them in a different format. It's going to group them by the rotation. So this is where we're going to see where residents evaluated the rotation. Also where residents maybe evaluated a faculty member on that rotation, or the faculty evaluated the resident on that rotation. So it's just going to be based by that rotation. And then our by date is going to be grouped by the time frames. So here I can say I just want to see the items for July, and then it's going to reload and show me any of the evaluations for my July interval. So handy little tool that goes through and allows you to kind of dig down through there and see some different information a little differently for each of your evals.
Okay, I have 2 more questions whenever you're ready.
Okay, go for it.
So next one is, can you copy over intervals from one session to another?
You can't copy the intervals, but you can copy the session from year to year. The intervals within the session, you do have to build here on that match schedule page. You can either use the intervals from your pre-built academic year, or you can build your own, but you can copy your sessions from year to year. You can set it to do it automatically, and there's an option here in the match schedule tab to say I want this session to automatically build next year again. Or you can just, on your session manager page, come over here and click this copy session. And when you do that copy session, it's going to take all of your settings, and then you're just going to be able to pick, well, actually, I want this one for the next year, and I can choose the next year intervals to copy it over for the next year instead of rebuilding that session.
Okay, someone made an additional comment that said, in reference to this topic, if your block dates vary, I don't recommend copying.
Correct. If your dates vary from year to year, that they are very different, if you have the grid in place, if you have your academic year in place already for the next year, it will take those next year's dates and copy them over. If you do the auto copy, just make sure with that one, let me pull that up here and show you. When you are on that auto copy, this one here, this is the one you're going to want to pay attention to. If you have dates that vary, you probably won't want to do this option of auto copying, because basically it just increments them by a year. And if your pattern changes from year to year and you don't have like a set pattern every year, you're probably not going to want to do this option of auto copying and just do that manual where you can choose your academic year grid. So very good suggestion.
Okay, I have another question here. Where's it? For future evaluation, in order to view that evaluation, you open it up, and after it's open, does it need to be deleted? If so, why? And then she says her question, she hopes her question makes sense.
Okay, let's see. For future evaluations, in order to view, you have to open it. After it's open, delete it. Okay, I think I know what you're asking. If I'm incorrect, just chime in and we'll get it figured out. But if you're here looking at an evaluation for a future one, let's say I want to match my block that hasn't happened yet, and I go through and I match it, and now I have matches here. Those matches, when that specific match date comes, so here is going to be the 23rd, what it'll do is it'll go back and look at the schedule and just pick up if there was any changes that weren't on this one. So basically it kind of just rematches it and looks and see if anything new was added, and it'll put it in there for you. So I think that's what you were asking.
Okay,
If
and
not,
the
just
next
chime in.
Oh, sorry. The next question that I kind of semi-answered very simply, but I'm sure you can do better, is I took a new role with a new program, and they have individual evaluations for different rotations. Would I need to have different sessions for each rotation, or can you have several evaluation forms available under one session?
Okay. The answer is yes for either way. It's really just a matter of preference. We do have an option if you have different forms for different rotations. There is an option under the evaluation that is the relationships, and it would be the relationships by people. And basically, you could say for this specific rotation, when these individuals are the evaluators and these individuals are the status type, this is the form they need to fill out when it's for this specific rotation. So you can do that mapping. You have to do this first to set up that relationship to say, this is the rotation eval for anesthesia. This is the form that's going to be used for ICU. This is the form that's going to be used for wards. So you can set that relationship here. And then what happens when you go to your session, as the system is automatically making the matches, you just have one form that's listed here, but as it's making the matches and it's finding people on those rotations that you have the specific forms for, it's going to look at those relationships and it's going to add in and it's going to bring in those different forms based on that relationship aspect. Now, the thing to remember is if your form changes, you need to make sure you go change that relationship so that going forward, it won't send out that old one, it's going to send a new one. Some people find instead of setting up that relationship, they would just rather have separate sessions and they just set it up that way. So you can really do either one.
And a clarification on the question from before that was, did it make sense? Is my question was, after you view, does it need to be deleted after you view it? And if so, why does disrupt the future evaluation?
When you view an evaluation, you don't need to delete it. It's just going to be viewed by you and it'll have the tag that you viewed it. You won't want to delete the evaluation unless you really don't want those results there anymore. And if it was completed, it's going to pop up a message and really ask you if you want to delete something that's been completed.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, only like level 5 people can see that stuff, right?
Correct.
Okay, that's it on those questions. So if you have more you want to say.
All right. So I know there's a lot of different stuff on evals. Just real quickly, because I know we're running out of time here.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
I wanted to show you one quick thing in the finance area. So in the IRIS, this is where your system is set up to get that reimbursement information. So there's one thing in here that I would say it's like the little gold mine of troubleshooting when it comes to reimbursement, trying to figure out, if somebody wasn't claimed or if something's missing, and it's going to be the detail detective. So under finance in the tools, it's called detail detective. And you can put in a date range that you're looking for. Oops. And we'll look at 2019's year. Ooh, and I got way too many numbers in there. And if I want to look for a certain person, I'm going to say, okay, here's Jason. That's the person I was looking for. And now what this does is it gives you a breakdown of all the information for his iris. It's going to show me all the different rotations he was listed on, and I'm going to see the information listed for each one. And then I can expand each one, and it's going to show me the configurations. So I'm going to see what the percentage allocation is and for what location. I'm going to see if there was any warnings or errors. I'm going to see if there was anything pulled from the work hours or patient care days or non-patient care days. And so it's going to give me that breakdown for every single rotation. I'm going to see those details. So here I can see there's July, August, and September, October, November, December. So you'd be able to go down and through and see all those different rotations. And if something's wrong on one of them, you'll see those issues, as well as you'll see down here below is all the information that gets pulled in from personnel data. So those fields that are specific to personnel. So you'd be able to see here if there's something missing as well. And then at the bottom, it's going to tell you if there's any problems. So here I can see that this resident is missing his initial program. That's needed. That's a necessary thing for IRIS. So that is highlighted here in kind of the darker color. And so that is a warning, that is an error. And then my warning is just that they don't have a middle name. Not everybody has a middle name. So that one is just a warning, but the error is not going to be able to be processed through. And so this screen is really nice because it goes through and it gives you all those different details that are pulling from the schedule, the configurations, and personnel data all in one page for a person. So great troubleshooting tool when it comes to trying to troubleshoot and figure out if someone's not showing up in your cost report or something looks a little odd. This is a great place to kind of look at that information overall. So I think I hit most of the items on the list that you gave me, Chris. I'm sure there's probably tons more things that people have questions about now.
Can you do me a favor? And that stuff that you went over in the very beginning was really great. And I know I animated a lot of people after that about where they can get further help and all those sessions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So our monthly webinars that we have, if you go under help and go into the knowledge base, right on that knowledge base in the admin resource section, when you click on that, you're going to go to the live webinar section. And in the live webinar section, our current year ones under the 2021 live webinar schedule, you're going to see the monthly schedule of all the different webinars that we have. Any of the ones that haven't happened yet, you can register for them. Any of the ones in the past, there'll be a link to view the webinar. We just had one last week, so they're actually going to be posting that here this week. You'll be able to watch it here shortly. It'll change and have a view webinar link there. You can go even in last year and see any of the ones that we did last year. If you're not getting those email notifications that we send out about these different webinars, there's a link right here to sign up to make sure that you get those emails from us, because we'll send those out a few weeks before those webinars occur, just to remind you that we have one coming up. So great place to go in there and look at information.
Well, that was great. And I mean, you're perfect. You got like right on time, even with the additional questioning. So
lots of practice.
And any of you guys that had asked me if things are going to, we recorded the session, so I will share it out in the Facebook group when I have the recording done, which will probably be tomorrow. And I just really, really want to thank Amanda for taking the time out to do this for all of us. I know all of you guys.
Absolutely.
I don't appreciate because I got ripped out of New Innovations, and I really miss it. So
I miss talking to you too. And, thank you for inviting me in. And, Chris, anytime you guys have a group like this that you want to go through some different topics, more than welcome,
I think that
welcome
might
me
be
and
a
I'd
nice
love to help you.
idea. I'll do a needs assessment to see if we see some like big ticket items, and maybe we can focus on particular things.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Bye, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.